Parents and educators alike have broken hearts and are haunted by the tragedy visited on the educators, students, and families of Newtown, Connecticut and Sandy Hook Elementary School. Whenever a school experiences violence and the lives of children and adults are lost, we struggle to find words to express our emotions and explain how this could have happened. Here in FCPS, counselors and mental health support are available at all of our schools to help students and staff cope with this tragedy. With more about help for students and parents, here are Kim Dockery, Assistant Superintendent of Special Services, and Mary Ann Panarelli, Director of Intervention and Prevention Services. Thank you both for joining us. It's a sad day that we're all, I think, coping with, but you all have been very busy since the tragedy happened, getting your mental health teams in place. Mary Ann, tell us about what kind of support is available in our schools.
Well, we do have psychologists and social workers and counselors in the schools all year long to respond to concerns of parents and of children. And of course, for this week, we have wanted to be sure that those people were available and ready to talk to any students who might have particular concerns, and also to support teachers as they were trying to start their day and keep on a normal routine with the children and just be there as a support if they needed to have someone step out, a child or an adult, step out and talk to someone.
And how should parents help children process this tragedy?
I think that it will differ some depending on the age of the child. Certainly very young children who may be riding the bus or hearing about it at school or hearing about it, overhearing conversations from adults, need to have someone tell them the very basics of the conversation. That this occurred and that some children were hurt and died, that it was far away from where we are right now, and that teachers and parents are working to keep them safe. I think those are the key messages that we want the young children to get. Older children and even young children, beyond that basic factual information, I would let the child lead the conversation. The child's going to ask questions about those things that they're concerned about, and if the parent can just answer frankly and in short pieces of information, not giving more than the child is really asking for, I think that's the best advice.
What about media coverage in terms of this event? It's been nonstop since the tragedy happened.
I think that it's particularly important for young children, and by that I mean children through, under high school age, not to be getting a lot of visual images of what has happened. I would really suggest that we want to stay away from the visual sorts of pieces of the media. For the students to hear about it is one thing, it is quite another thing to kind of carry the images in their head. So I would encourage that. The older students, obviously they're on Facebook, they're going to be seeing it, hearing it, and have their own access to some of the information. I think that, again, parents can suggest, let's turn it off. Let's talk about what your concerns are. But, with older students, I think parents are going to have to make decisions on their own about their child and what kind of information that they can get. But with really young ones, I would limit the exposure to the media.
And I know you often say that we take our leads from the needs of the students, from the children and what they're asking for instead of from our own needs. So that age range, you're going to, what is my child asking me? So.
And with an older child, if the parent can sit with them while they're watching whatever it is they're watching so that they can talk about it, as opposed to having them by themselves in the room, just looking at it by themselves. I think that would be important.
And the other point that you've made is that sometimes when you see that visual image, you think it's happening again, when it's really just a recording. And so knowing that young children sometimes have difficulty with that, I think, again, speaks to limiting those visual images.
Right. We had talked about before the show started how sometimes adults don't think the way children think, and that we need to kind of remember that children perceive things differently. Now, Kim, we're coming up on the holidays, and there might be gatherings around the family table where this tragedy will come up. How do you suggest that families and parents and even our staff who are going to be at those gatherings discuss this?
Well, I think that it's natural if you work in a school, people ask you, well, what was it like in your school? And one of the things that we know, again, is back to the conversations that we have with adults. We should be very mindful to what students or children are listening to and have our adult thinking and talking with adults, and our processing with students being quite aware of how old they are and what information they're getting. So I think it will come up at the holiday gathering that people want to reach out and say, how are you? Do you feel safe? Were your children upset? And so being able to have those conversations, but being very mindful of what children hear and how they process.
And we have some terrific resources on our website. Tell us a few about a
we
few
do.
of those.
I think also going into the holidays, we are away from the counselor and psychologist and social worker that are in the schools, but our website in FCPS is very rich with resources. So even if you're a teacher over the holidays and you want to click on there and read and think about some of the language, and parents as well, this is a place that you can go and get reinforcement. There's scripts for you that you could think about, oh, that's how I want to say that to my child. And so knowing that we do have a wealth of resources on our website, that's an important thing to know over the winter break when you're not as close to that school resource.
Great. Well, thank you both. I know our thoughts will remain with the families and staff of Newtown, Connecticut over the holidays.
Indeed, thank you.